Hi everyone, welcome to Cooking with Chef Rich. Today we're going to be making a triple chocolate mousse cake. Triple chocolate mousse cake is one of my favorite cakes to make. Looks great. It's a layer of Oreo cookie base, white chocolate mousse, milk chocolate mousse, and a chocolate ganache covering. Tastes great, looks incredible. I would like to dedicate this video to my friend Sam and his family. This is one of their favorite desserts that I make. He actually asked me to do this video, so this video is for you and your family, Sam. First thing that we have to do is make a milk chocolate ganache. A ganache is just a mix of cream with chocolate. Sometimes there's butter and corn syrup mixed in. Very easy to make. We do have to do this in advance because it takes about 6 hours to cool, a solid 6 hours to cool. It has to be totally chilled before we can actually make the mousse. So let's jump right in. Over here I have some heavy cream. I will be putting all the ingredients down in the description below. This is right about to come up to boil. I put it on beforehand. It's just, in here is just pure heavy cream. I'm going to add my milk chocolate. And my butter. And now I'm just going to stir until both the butter and the chocolate dissolves. And I'm going to mix this. It's going to take a minute or two for it to dissolve, but just mix it through and through. Once it's totally dissolved, we are going to put it in a container. Let it sit out for probably 45 minutes or so just to let it cool down, and then stick it in the refrigerator until it's totally chilled. Once it's totally chilled, I'll show you what to do. See you soon. I have over here heavy cream that's just right about to come up to a boil. So now I'm going to add my chocolate and my butter. And stir. I'm going to keep mixing until all the butter and chocolate is totally melted. Once the chocolate is melted, I'm going to let this mixture cool. Then I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator and let it cool to be used later. See you in a bit. So right now we're going to be working on our triple chocolate mousse cake. Very, very handsome cake. It's a really great cake. Looks wonderful. One of the things is you do have to use a drop pan. A drop pan is something where the bottom drops out. If you use a regular hard pan, you'll never get the cake out of the pan. So you do need a drop pan for this. This is a 10-inch pan that we're going to be using for this. And let's jump right in. Over here, I have 28 Oreo cookies, and I have 6 ounces of unsalted butter. And right now we're going to be making our Oreo cookie base. Just going to put these in a food processor. Going to add the butter. Our butter is softened. You can soften it either leave it out for half hour to 1 hour until it's soft. You notice when I push on it, it should be relatively soft. It's not hard. Conversely, if you don't want to wait the hour, you can throw it in a microwave for 10 seconds at a shot until it's a little soft. Don't melt it in a microwave. It might be like 10 seconds and then another 5 seconds, but that is an option. And our machine's giving us problems again. All right, there we go. Now you notice if you look closely, that's butter down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a spatula, scrape the whole thing, and then run it for another few seconds. Do not stick your finger in here because there is a blade in there and you can cut yourself very easy. Very often these food processor blades are extremely, extremely sharp. So never stick your fingers in here. And that should be pretty good. That is pretty good. If you look at it, you don't see any clumps of butter, and that's really what you want. That's like the most important part. We'll put this in our cake pan. And then I'll take the edge of my hand and just push it down. So you're just going to take the edge of your hand, kind of make a bit of a circle, and push it down. First thing, spread it out so it's relatively even. And once it's relatively even, there is one little clump of butter that I'm going to get rid of. And just go around You don't have to bake this or anything. This is ready, as is. And we'll go on to our next part of our cake. So I'll see you in a couple minutes. So we're now working on our white chocolate mousse layer of our triple chocolate mousse cake. This is where things get a little bit complicated. I don't remember whether I said before that this is probably one of the more complicated cakes I know how to make. So try to pay attention if you're actually interested in making it. If you're watching this just for entertainment purposes, enjoy. If you actually want to make it, it does get a little complicated. First thing we're going to start off with is gelatin. Well, let me just run through the ingredients. I have some eggs, some sugar, some very cold water, some gelatin, some white chocolate, and some heavy cream for this layer. And as I said, I will put all the ingredients in the description below. So the first thing we're going to do is gelatin has to be something called bloomed. You have to bloom the gelatin in cold water. Water has to be very cold. If it's warm, it will not bloom. And to do this, we're just going to sprinkle it very, very lightly. You notice how the water kind of absorbs it. You don't want to pour it in quickly. And we're just going to let that sit for a few minutes while we're working with the other stuff. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to melt our chocolate in the microwave for about 45 seconds. We're going to take it out, we'll mix it up, and put it back in the microwave for another 45 seconds. After that, we're going to get our heavy cream whipping. We're not going to be adding any sugar to this. It's not actually whipped cream. It's not whipped cream where it's sweet with vanilla and sugar. We're just going to mix it to what they call soft to medium peak. So our chocolate just came out of the microwave. It's still pretty hard. Could go in for another 45 seconds, I'm guessing. Try to keep the chocolate in a bowl. We're going to put our cream back on. So our chocolate just came out of the microwave. At this point it should be soft, I'm guessing. Yep, it is. So I'm just going to mix this up and I'm going to put my mixer back on. All right, so our whipped cream is actually at medium peak now. I'm going to take it out and just show you what it looks like. When I say medium peak, it's working on stiff peak, but it's still rather soft. So that way when I mix it up, when I mix it into our layer of mousse, it will fold nicely. So you don't want it too stiff. So that's good like that. I'm going to finish mixing this. There was a couple clumps in there. I just let it sit for a minute or two, and that will melt. So now you can see that's nice and smooth. Our gelatin is blooming nicely. That's good. And now comes the fun part. So this is eggs and we're mixing in sugar. We have to whip this over heat. We're going to be using a water bath. So I have some water in here. It's very, very important that while this is simmering, it's not boiling fast or hard. If it's boiling hard, what's going to happen is your eggs are going to cook very, very quickly and you're going to have scrambled eggs. And nobody wants scrambled eggs when they're eating a piece of cake. So first we're going to mix this up a bit. And when I put this over heat, the first thing that's going to happen is the sugar is going to melt, assuming the heat isn't too high. I have to keep mixing it. Generally a mixing motion is kind of either back and forth or figure eight, either way. But you want to make sure that you keep mixing the whole thing continuously over heat. If you stop mixing it for even a few seconds, like I said, the eggs will cook and you'll have scrambled eggs. So you don't want to do that. Start doing this. You notice that my water is definitely simmering, but it's not boiling hard. Put my bowl over and just keep mixing it. And this is going to take 5 minutes of mixing. So I'm just going to sit and mix it for the next few minutes, and I will show you what it looks like when you're done. But you, like I said, you do have to continually mix it. Turn it up just a little bit. At this point, you notice that it's rather loose, and that's because the sugar has melted. So that's the first thing that will happen. As the eggs start to cook, slowly, it will start to get thicker. And I'll show you what that looks like. So I've been mixing this for right about 5 minutes continuously. You'll notice that as I'm going back and forth, you get like lines in it, meaning it's thick. It's visc at this point. This has to be fully cooked for the reason that you don't want to be serving raw eggs. The chocolate mousse itself, and the white chocolate mousse, doesn't get actually cooked in the oven at any point. So this has to cook the eggs enough that you won't give anyone salmonella. That's very, very important. That's pretty good. You can tell that's done because it is nice and visc. So the eggs are fully cooked at this point. So the next thing we're going to do is our gelatin has to be melted. I'm just going to drop this whole bowl in the hot water for a few seconds. So our gelatin is just actually sitting in the water. You'll notice that it's very, very thick, but as it heats, it will get soft like water in a minute. I'm just going to mix it with my hand a little bit. Turn off our water. We just want to make sure that it's all dissolved perfectly, which it is at this point. If you're using a metal bowl, be careful because it'll get very, very hot. You'll notice it's liquid, so I'm just going to pour this liquid in here at this point. Mix that through and through. The next thing I'm going to do is add my chocolate. And you are best off just adding it all at one time, very, very quickly. At this point, you have to be working quickly. And then mix this through and through. As soon as the chocolate gets cold, it starts to set. So you really have to mix very, very quickly. Good. Now comes the fun part. This part has to be done literally within a few seconds. What's going to happen is, so there's gelatin here. When the gelatin cools, it gets hard, which is the purpose of the gelatin. It works like Jell-O. When it's hot, it's liquid. When you put Jell-O in a refrigerator, it gets solid. So that's what's going to happen here. Once I add this to this, the same thing is going to happen. Because this is cold, it's going to set up very, very quickly. So we have to work very, very quickly. I'm actually just going to pour it all in. You're supposed to fold it in, but I found that when I fold it in, it just sets up too quickly and I don't have enough time to work with it, because literally you have 10 to 15 seconds to work with it and that's it. So you want to mix it up really, really, really quick. Once it's mixed through and through. Just tap that down a little bit. That's pretty good. And then I'm going to put this in my refrigerator and let it set. And I'll show you what it looks like in about an hour. See you soon. So our white chocolate mousse for our triple chocolate mousse is now set. You'll notice that when I go like this, it doesn't move. If I touch it, it's firm. So that's perfect the way we want it. It's nice and set. It was in the refrigerator actually for maybe an hour and a half. Now we're going to do our chocolate mousse layer. What we're going to do, so like this one, I have gelatin and some very cold water. It does have to be cold. We're going to bloom the gelatin in the water first thing before we do anything. Now I'm just going to let that sit and that will bloom by itself. The next thing that we're going to do, I have our soft ganache that I made first thing in the morning. You'll notice that it's very, very soft. which is fine. That's how it should be, but it's cold. That's the most important thing. It is cold. I have heavy cream here, and I will put the amounts in the description down below. They add the heavy cream to our soft ganache. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this up to whip. And this is going to turn into a whipped cream, basically. A chocolate whipped cream, I should say. So real fast, if you notice, there's still some crystals in here. I'm going to try to add just a little bit of cold water. Not the ideal, but it will work. You do want all your gelatin to bloom, because otherwise you'll have a clump of gelatin. Now we're going to go back to this on. Hang on. So this is still mixing and has a bit more to go. Right now our gelatin is fully bloomed. So I'm going to put this in some hot water to get it a little bit warm right now, just like I did before. And I'm going to turn this back on. So if you notice, you'll start to see peaks up on top. That means it's almost done. We're going to whip it probably for another minute or so. Let's go for 1 minute. So at this point, you'll notice this is actually very, very stiff. And it's just like whipped cream, basically. It's a chocolate whipped cream, I should say. So that's going to stay there for a couple seconds. So you notice that our gelatin now has melted. I put it over hot water just for a minute or so. So as I mentioned before, this is a very, very complicated cake to make. It's challenging in that certain things have to happen very, very, very quickly, or literally it doesn't work at all. What we're going to do is we're going to be adding the gelatin to our whipped cream. From there, as soon as the warm gelatin hits the cold, it's going to start to gelatinize, meaning it'll turn to jello. So what I have to do is, once this goes in here, I have literally 2 or 3 seconds to mix it up, another 2 seconds to get it all into my cake, and then another 2 seconds to get it flat. So it's always a treat doing this. I do it all the time. It does work, but you have to move super, super fast. Could actually, though, have that ready, have this ready, and away we go. If you look at it closely, you can see it's already starting to set. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are putting another layer on top of this. You get it as smooth as you can, and that's fine. And that was that. A lot of fun. Anyway, I'm going to put this in the refrigerator, let it set for about an hour, and we'll put the top layer on and our cake is done. See you soon. So we're back working on our triple chocolate mousse. Our second layer, the chocolate mousse layer, has now set. And you notice when I touch it, like it doesn't move at all, so it's firm, just the way it's supposed to be. Our top layer is going to be another ganache. I have some heavy cream here, so I'm going to put it in a pot. Very small amount. Could heat this up. This is some milk chocolate. I also, in here, I have a little bit of corn syrup and some butter. And I'm just going to heat this up, and I'll show you what to do as soon as it's hot. So our heavy cream came up to a boil, and now I'm going to add my chocolate, my butter, and my light corn syrup. And it is light corn syrup as opposed to heavy corn syrup. Let's stir this in. This may not be hot enough to melt it. If it's not, I'll just put it back on the flame for a couple seconds. I really don't want to get it too hot because I am going to be pouring it on top of the mousse. And if it gets too hot, it will actually just melt the mousse. Put it back on just for a couple seconds. So I put it back on a heat literally just for about 10 seconds. Make sure everything's all melted. If I put it on the heat more, it will get looser, but this is fine. As I said, I don't want it hot because when I put it on top of the mousse over here, I don't want it to melt the mousse. And this you also have to work a little bit quickly because as soon as the chocolate hits the cold mousse, it will set. So gonna wash this off. So I just washed my spatula so it's nice and clean. I'm gonna heat it up just for a couple seconds over flame. That's not bad. There you go. Next thing we're gonna do is I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator for about half an hour so this sets up, and then I'm going to take it out and I'll show you what it looks like. See you in half an hour. So the top layer of our triple chocolate mousse cake is now set, as you can see, and now we're going to attempt, and I do say attempt, to take this off, take it out of the mold. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a relatively thin knife and I'm going to heat it up a little bit. Not too much, but definitely a little bit. And as soon as it gets hard, do it again with the flame. Not too bad. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my spatula, just get those 1 or 2 little pieces off the top. You see how it's a little jagged? I'm going to take my spatula, I'm going to heat it up a little bit. And because this is a mousse, it'll actually melt a little bit. So I'm going to reheat this a little bit more. It's not going to make it perfect. I'll make it a little bit better. I'm going to heat up one more time. Alrighty. I'm also going to just trim this a little bit. Just keep my knife up. When you're working with icing, it's always good to work with a little bit of a hot knife. That's pretty good. It's not going to be perfect, but not bad. Anyway, so we have an Oreo cookie base, white chocolate mousse, milk chocolate mousse, and a milk chocolate ganache layering. So I'm going to cut this up in a little while, and I will show you what it looks like when it's machine's giving us problems again. All right, there we go. Nice, no blade.